Welcome to Real Estate Success DFW, the podcast where top producing agents from Dallas-Fort Worth come together to share their stories and strategies behind their success. I'm Shaune Corbett, your host, and with over 300 million sold in the local real estate market and the honor of being best of D multiple times, I know what it takes to make it in this market. Each episode, we're going to dive into the world of real estate, learning from the very best in the industry. If you're ready to level up your game, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Hey everyone, Shaune Corbett here. We have a special guest, Michelle Appling. She has joined us. She's a KW agent, has had a great successful career so far and has some specific spaces I think some of you will relate to. One in particular is the senior living space. That's one of her passions and where she spent, I think even prior to real estate, if I remember reading your background. I've already been reading notes on you. And she's also works with people that are going through divorce, is certainly another space that she's at the cutting edge of it. I know it's a challenge to kind of break in and have continuity there because everyone, it's fractured relationships, right? I mean, we got to get matched up either with a real estate attorney or be in kind of the right space and have connections there. So how are you, Michelle?
Great. Thanks for having me today.
Well, very good. Thanks for coming on. I really appreciate you doing this with me. So first thing I always like to talk about how long you've been in real estate.
8.5 years now.
Okay. 8.5 years. And I do remember you coming from the senior living space. What did that look like?
Sure. So I spent 10 years in the senior living space. I was in sales for the nation's largest elder care referral service, A Place for Mom. And so when I transitioned into real estate in 2016, that was really one of the reasons I got into real estate. I could help people find a great place for their parent all day long, but I didn't have someone that could help them get out of their house, that had the resources to work with their antiques and their collectibles and help them space plan and pack and move and liquidate everything that was left. So over the years, I've built a really solid team with a collectibles advisor, a move concierge, and a estate liquidation specialist, where we handle everything for them from start to finish. So my company in that space is called Silvergate, and we are a start to finish turnkey concierge senior real estate company.
Okay. Is that Kathy Lee Gifford? Was that A Place for Mom? Was that her that did that?
Joan London. Yeah. I met her one time on the top producer trip too. Years and years ago, probably about 14 years ago now.
They're kind of in not that same space, but they're kind of that same time period. It's funny that's who I was thinking. I was like, I remember seeing advertisements for that program.
Right.
It solves one problem, but we do have a lot of other problems that we have to resolve. And I guess I wouldn't have even thought of that up front. In our space in real estate, we have older people that they've lived in their home for 20, 30 years. There hasn't been any updating. And now it's time to liquidate and make that transition. Now, I'm actually on that side of it. Not so much a lot of the things you're doing. You have a lot of whole concierge stuff going on, right? So you've got, we're going to facilitate. I got somebody who can help with that. I've got somebody who can help with liquidating, not just beyond just an estate sell, but we're going to really, I remember you and I talked prior, you're talking about there are things in homes that I'll step back a little bit. I don't even care if someone robs me because I don't have anything valuable in my house, right? That we've gotten to this point, right? We have so much cheap stuff that works and functional. Our TV's 75 inches, $500. Okay. Right. I'll live. You can steal it and I can go buy another one.
Right.
But we don't have a lot of good collectible things, a lot of us now. So it's not even a big deal so much if we get robbed. But there are elements of people that have been around and they hold on to certain things that do have beyond sentimental value. They have real value. Maybe they are 100 years old. Maybe they are made of a precious metal that you can't just replace. And you have someone that can evaluate those things.
Yes. And you bring up a good point because I find that many times they think that a lot of their stuff is worth money. China, crystal, the China cabinet, those types of things aren't, which is because our younger people and the people that are buying now don't live the same
way.
There's
no market.
that our parents did. Correct. There's no market. Well, it's your basic law of supply and demand, right? We have a lot of supply right now because our baby boomers are moving, they're downsizing. We don't have a lot of demand. But at the same time, there can be some things based on the age of them, maybe where they were from or the brand. For example, my collectibles advisor will go through their costume jewelry. There are costume jewelry designers from the 60s, 70s, and 80s that are highly sought after. Those kind of things may be worth money. And even then, when we look through maybe a shoebox full of costume jewelry, we always find some things that might be 14 karat gold. The metals market, gold, silver, platinum is very high right now. So you'd be surprised the things that we can find, those little treasures that we can dig out that'll put another $5,000 or $10,000 in our seniors' pockets right away. Well, guess what? That just paid for the mover, or it just paid their community fee at their assisted living. So my goal and my team's goal is to always maximize the equity of everything that they have, keeping in mind that their biggest treasure is their home. That's where the majority of their money lies. So we want to deal with all that other stuff efficiently, effectively, respectfully, but get on to working on the house because that's where the money is.
Do you have a market that you do this in? Is it just Dallas Fort Worth?
Right now, it's just Dallas Fort Worth, but we do have plans for expansion.
Okay. And it's Silvergate is your brand that you're
Yes.
using to operate and facilitate this using your network of contractors that can handle these things.
Yes.
It sounds like primarily you may be working with people that may not have a lot of liquidity. This is a way for them to make this transition.
Sometimes it really depends. I will say that probably 75 to 80% of the time, the house is their largest asset. They don't have a ton of cash in the bank. They probably spent down a lot of their assets in the way of IRAs, investments, that kind of thing, because everybody wants to stay at home, right? That's what everybody says. I want to stay in my home. And that is wonderful if you can. But what I have found over my almost 20 years in working with seniors is that they usually stay in their home too long from a physical standpoint and the help and the care that they need, but also from the house standpoint, there's a lot of deferred maintenance. It needs to be updated. And so it's not worth as much money as they thought it would be because of everything that needs to be done to the house.
Yeah, I'm heavy in that space
Mm-hmm.
specifically. I've flipped over 100 houses here in Dallas Fort Worth, and
Wow.
I've taken that knowledge, and now I've actually started doing kind of the space you're in, but I can do it anywhere in the US. They
Right.
have to have some money though. And the
Yeah.
money I need is I'm going to say your house is worth 300 as is, but if we put $60,000 into it, I can make it 400. So now you're 60,
Exactly. That
I'll
is the
make you
exact same
40.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And
exactly what we're doing because
um
it makes more sense if they can, for them to be able to do that rather than sell to an investor. And not that investors don't have their place, and I work with some great ones, but if they can save that equity that they're going to give away to an investor, if they have the time to wait for the house to be updated and then sold, then I always think that's the best way to go because they can definitely put more money in their pocket.
yeah, most are not making, besides Social Security, they have no way to make income.
Right.
And it's, if they have the cash available, this is kind of your last opportunity that we can take your investment and turn it into something better.
And even if they don't have the cash available, my team and we have a cost advance program, and it's a case by case basis, but we'll advance the money for the rehab and get paid at closing.
Yeah, incredible. It's a very good opportunity. And there are businesses that do that, like
Yes,
Curbio and
yes,
things like that. Yeah.
absolutely.
But offering that that's powerful. You're definitely several steps ahead on what you have set up here. And it can be duplicated. You know,
Absolutely.
there's
Absolutely.
nothing particularly special that can't be done other places, that just people don't have the vision to see
Right.
that here's your gaps. Here's how we're going to, because they don't think about any of these things. You
Right.
mentioned someone's in their home and they want to, I mean, we'd probably all want to die in the most comfortable place we can.
Right.
And then you build the house around you to function for you only. And there are a
Right.
lot of things that don't get taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to make that transition out of the home because it's just becoming dangerous and
Well,
you
and I
don't have a
think too,
replacement.
right. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I think too, people want to stay in their home because that's what they know. when you talk to someone that's 70 or 80 years old and talk about a retirement community, in their mind, they're thinking a nursing home that they put their parents in the 80s. If you go out and tour an independent living or an assisted living, they're super nice.
Yeah.
They're very comfortable. And I find that when folks move in and they acclimate, they say, man, I should have done this sooner, because now they have people to eat their meals with. They have people to socialize with. There's someone that's coming and cleaning their apartment once a week. If their light bulb goes out, they call the front desk and they say, hey, my light bulb's out. That sounds awesome. And so I think it's really just a lot of education around what is out there now, what's available. The other thing that I talk a lot about is how do you pay for it? Because you mentioned earlier, most people, their income is their Social Security, whatever they're getting out of the house. Some people have a long-term care policy. There's a veterans benefit called VA aid and attendance that most people do not know about, and they don't know how to work with it, that will help a veteran or their widower pay for the cost of care, and it's a lifetime benefit. So when I can go in and help them look at their overall financial picture and work with their financial advisor, CPA, or whatever, because I don't know everything, but I do know enough to know when we need to do certain things to create eligibility for that aid and attendance benefit or whatever, I can really help them find all that money under the proverbial couch cushion, so to speak, that will pay for care and make their money last long enough to be in a private pay community.
Sure. That's the value of being in your space, right? We don't have to have the answers, but we know where to go to.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, I mean, any type in our real estate space, right? Even the simplest obvious, inspectors, contractors, people like that, or title or anything like that. We have a place we know where we can go to in order to solve whatever real estate problem that we have. And these are just additional real estate problems specifically targeted towards these older people that have to go through these challenges.
Absolutely.
A place called home, is that what it was called?
A place for mom.
A place for mom, that's right. Is that like a network of long-term, I say I can't call it long-term. Is it over 55? Is it senior citizen? What facility is it?
So it's not a facility, it's a referral service. So
That's
they
what it is.
contract with communities, independent living, assisted memory care, residential care homes. And there are you will find lots of local mom and pop referral services. And because of my experience, Silvergate has a senior living placement piece to it. I still network and work in that space every day. So I know what type of care an independent living community can provide. I know what type of care an assisted living can provide. I know residential care homes. And that's the first thing we have to talk about is, okay, where are you going? Sometimes my clients, I find that people usually downsize twice, right? They downsize out of the big 2-story home with the pool and the big yard to maybe a townhome or a 1-story on a smaller 0 lot line.
Yeah, 10, 15 years at most.
Exactly.
And then they'll need something even less.
Right.
Or they move to rent, really. I mean,
sometimes, sometimes. I find that generation struggles with renting because they were always told it was throwing away their money. Oh, I don't want to rent. I'm giving somebody else my money. And they even struggle with that in the senior living communities and independent assisted, because they'll say, oh, well, my house is paid for and this community is going to cost so much money. But they also have to look at all the services they're receiving. And they also have to look at the fact that now there comes a point in your life, there is a chapter, a season in your life that you need to be more liquid. So I ask my clients, I say, well, look at your financial situation. Can you afford to buy a house? And then if you had a major health event like a stroke, could you afford to pay for care without having to hurry up and throw your house on the market and maybe lose money? If the answer is yes, then great. If the answer is no, then maybe it is time to rent in a community where all your bills are paid and your meals are taken care of. And the only thing you're really responsible for is expanded cable and a phone.
That's good. I have a good friend of my wife. She's retired from teaching. And she asked me yesterday, hey, I'm looking probably the next year or two to transition into an over 55 community. And all I've got is the MLS, right?
Right.
I don't have, so that might be a good like referral option for you and say, hey,
Sure.
you've got all the special options here. Maybe I do that and say, hey, this is your service, this is your space. I don't want to play in that field specifically.
Right.
That's not my calling yet. Maybe in next 10 years it may be a lot more, but all I know is Robson Ranch and I only know a few. So
Right, right. And
that's
sometimes
good.
they don't want to purchase, like you said, they want to rent. It depends on their circumstances and what is the right fit, the right answer for them in that season of life.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I love that. So let me ask you, is there anything else you wanted to cover within that space there?
No, I mean, I'm very passionate about my seniors and I'm passionate about making sure that their equity is maximized. I find that the more I have kind of married the healthcare and the real estate piece of it, the more I realize it is really important for a senior to have an agent that is not just a good agent that understands real estate, but that really understands all those other pieces that can help them make that transition and maximize all their equity. So I could talk about that all day, but I know we don't have all day. So,
Yeah, no, and this is fantastic, right? Because you're talking about a particular space that's just going to expand exponentially for the
right,
next 10, 15, 20 years. I feel the same. I feel like, and mine is not so much I'm building a brand or advertisement. What happens is I solve real estate problems. That's my gift. Whatever
sure.
it is, I can handle the real estate aspect of it. And I have friends that call me and say, hey, my mom, I need a mover down here closer to me.
Hmm.
What do we do with our house? And then I look at it and I say, well, the house as is probably about 200,000. If we
Hmm.
can put about 40 into it, I'll make you 60. If that's
Right,
something you guys are willing to do, I'll take care of everything. I'll make it turnkey. I work at a company I can refer to anybody anywhere. So they actually, and they're still within my group. So I did that just recently about a year ago. And I also encouraged, she didn't have any cash. Okay. Not
hmm,
enough cash. She probably had 50 and
right,
I
right.
could get that done, but we couldn't move her and build a facility on my friend's property. So I told her to get a HELOC. So
Mm.
she got a HELOC and got approved 2 weeks, got the money and built that new house, moved completely out. And then I renovated her house in about 4 weeks and then we put it on the market and sold it.
Right,
For her, it was all turnkey. She didn't have to stress about it. I took care of all the problems and then I told her
right.
things that she needed to know.
Yeah. And that's what I tell my clients. We do everything for you. The only thing I can't do is spend your money without your permission.
Yeah.
So if we find something needs to be done, then I'll get the bids, I'll help you with that. But everything else we do for them.
Yeah, I mean, you're a client advocate, right? That's
Yes.
really kind of because no one else is really out to help them, and you need to kind of see where we're going with this. What's going to be their most
Absolutely.
beneficial.
Absolutely.
All right, let's talk about our other favorite topic, divorce.
Oh yeah,
How
let's talk about
how
that.
how did that come up, right? I know agents that will sell to divorced people, but it's not something that's easily specialty. It's not like all my friends are all just going to call me when they get divorced because that's a
Sure.
problem.
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, I was introduced to the Alumni Institute where I received my certified divorce real estate expert designation through a friend and colleague of mine in Oklahoma. We were at a training together at a seminar and we were having lunch and she mentioned it. So I wrote it down and then I went and looked it up and started asking her more questions about it. And my first thought was one of the fastest growing segments of divorce, believe it or not, are the silver divorces, people married 25 years or more. So I'm 54. My husband and I have been married over 30 years. So you're talking about women, people my age. Okay. And I thought, oh, well, I'm good at working with people in crisis. My older people, the daughter feels guilty for moving mom. Mom is sad. I'm good. I'm good at life transitions. So I made application to the Alumni Institute. It was a very rigorous program. They only take about 12% of their applicants. You have to have 2 letters of recommendation. You have to write an essay because they want to make sure you can communicate with the written word. And then you get through 3 interviews before you get into the class. And it was a 6-month class. And I'm still in their master club. So I have classes about 4 hours every month. And my work there is with the attorneys. I spend a lot of time educating the attorneys. I see them as my clients. So that's where I go to get my business. I'm not looking for people that are getting divorces. that's a little
Yeah, I've heard this
predatory,
before.
you
Real,
know.
if you want to get into that space, you need to develop a relationship with divorce attorneys because
Exactly.
we need to get
And
third party. We need to get neutral. Neither one of you can know the agent, and it just
right,
makes it a whole lot easier. And you
right.
handle the real estate part. I'll handle the other stuff.
Right. And that's the whole point of the Alumni Institute is training us to be that third party neutral, training us to learn to communicate with the attorneys. And we have a lot of really cool extra things that we have through that program that allow us, like I can perform CLE, certified legal education units for attorneys. I just presented to the Tarrant County Family Law Bar Association last month on orders, terms, and practices that sink your client's equity. So the goal of the Alumni Institute is to educate attorneys on the real estate issues as they intersect in family law.
I'm in a little bit of a lateral space with estate planners that need to deal with real estate. And to me,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sure you can share the sentiment, in these transactions, the most complicated thing you would think would be real estate. Last I checked, I can't cut a house in half or thirds or
Right,
fourths. So now you may think it's simple, we just sell and divide, but one out of four is not didn't want to sell,
right.
and I struggle kind of with that part. Like you would think that they would have advocates of real estate be available to them to help facilitate and educate them on how to move forward with these things. Is big. I'm in real estate pretty heavy. I've got rental properties. I believe in real estate. I believe in training my clients always about exit strategies. And I actually discourage most of them from selling. I know it's counterintuitive to our business, but I want long-term forever referrals and I want to build net worth. And I've
Sure.
got time. I mean, I'm still got 20, 30 years of pretty high intensity real estate sales available. And I want to have them call me indefinitely when they're ready to move forward or do something that they could never have done if they sold their house. You know,
Absolutely.
let's
Yeah.
hang on to it. It's building 5% a year of equity on somebody else's money. Let it expedite, right? So I'm a real big fan of that, but I know sometimes in the end, I can't have 20 properties that now I've got four kids. Who's getting what, right? I don't want to create a complex problem either. I know I can set up a trust and the trust can own it and they can determine things, but I just think it's a mess. So I usually at some point I'm going to divest anyway. So I'm going around this really complicated.
Well, I
But
mean,
you and I
that's
are in similar
interesting.
space there.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. My husband's been in wealth management for 40 years. And so we have the same thing. Our kids are grown. We're putting together our trust and looking at how that'll be managed with our rental properties. But you can always just give your kids an income. You don't have to give them the asset.
And Stacy's my wife, her dad will not let go of his house no matter what. Like he won't even let us sell it, nothing. It has to
Yeah.
stay in the family forever. And I'm like, your house ain't that special.
Well, and
It's
right,
brick and stick. I mean, come on.
that's,
It's not.
yeah, I mean, but that's the challenge of working with older people that are emotionally attached. It's
Yeah.
the challenge of working with divorcing couples. Somebody wants to keep the house, but they don't have enough income to refi and buy the other one out of the equity. It's an incredibly emotionally charged transaction. You have two people on the same side of the transaction, but they oppose one another. They can't agree that the sky is blue. So how are you going to get them to agree on what price to put on the house, which again is where my certification and all my training comes in, because I train and help the lawyers understand how to write me into the decree where I am written in to sell the house so that it's a court-led process and not a client-led process. And that's where you have to get to in those types of things.
Yeah. Yeah. And you could be pretty objective then. There's nothing
Right.
personal, right? We're just going to tell you the
Absolutely.
facts. I don't have to sell you anything. I'm
Yeah.
here to, I don't get paid if I don't sell and
Right.
you don't, and you can't hire someone else. So let's work together and get this thing done. What do you
Right.
think your
Yeah,
percentage
exactly.
of referral based business versus do you do much cold based business?
None. I mean, all my business is referral based pretty much. I mean, I would say right now, about 80% of my business is seniors that are downsizing, and 15% is coming from divorce attorneys, and then 5% of friends or family or somebody else.
So someone calls you off realtor.com and they
Mm-hmm.
say, "Hey, I want to go buy a house out here." Would you take the call or refer it out?
It depends. Like I actually got one of those off of Zillow a couple months ago. I closed it in September, which made me laugh because I never get that kind of stuff. They were buying a $750,000 house, so I helped them personally.
Okay.
It depends on geographically where they're looking. I live in the mid cities. I'm in Colleyville, close to the airport. So if they need to be in Salina, then I'm probably not the right person for them. I'd refer that out for sure. And here close by, depending on the price point, I would sometimes I refer, sometimes I do it myself. And it just depends on my workload and what I have going on at the time.
So I think we have a pretty big disparagement between agents that are selling and ones that don't. I think
Hmm.
there's a pretty substantial. Most of the agents in my groups and my teams don't sell more than 2 or 3 a year. I mean, it's not even livable.
Right.
Unfortunately, I think you and I are kind of floating more at the top and we got plenty of referrals. So we work those opportunities. What do you think, as a general advice, you might give to agents that just are not breaking through to get to that 1%?
What does your daily schedule look like? How do people know you're in real estate? How much time are you spending prospecting? I have found, of course, I was in heavy sales before I got in real estate. Most people have no sales experience when they get in real estate. And the funny thing about real estate is it's the only sales job that people think isn't a sales job.
Sure.
It is sales. And I think that's where I was fortunate in that I came from a fully commissioned sales job into a fully commissioned sales job. What does your daily schedule look like? Are you afraid to get on the phone? If you're not willing to pick up the phone or knock doors, or I do technology and all that kind of stuff too. I have somebody that does it for me because I'm not really good at it. When I have an Instagram and I have a Facebook page, but you have to talk to people. And if you're not willing to talk to people and pick up the phone and find people that need to buy and sell, you won't be successful. That's just the
Yeah.
bottom line.
I'd say even more than that, I don't negotiate by text or email. I want to talk.
No.
You
Yeah.
know,
Pick up
I
the phone
appreciate
and
that.
call
Yeah.
me. Yeah.
It is very frustrating that they'll counter back to me and there's counter terms that need conversation, right?
Absolutely.
Stop texting. And I don't mind putting specific language in an email, but we're going to have the conversation first. I only
Mm-hmm.
use the email to make sure it matches what I told you.
Yes.
I
My
always want to be
emails
clear.
start with per our conversation.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we got to have something. I don't want to miss anything. I don't want them to
Right.
misconstrue what I said. So I'll put it in an email, but we're going to have a conversation. I think that's a missed art for most of, and it's frustrating because most of my transactions, I'm generally dealing with agents that sell probably less than 5 a year. So it's a
That's
challenge.
interesting. Recently, I would say in the last, 6 to 8 months, every time I write an offer or I receive an offer, I will look that agent up in the MLS to see how many houses they've sold in the last
Mhm.
12 months, because I need to know if I'm just going to have to do my job or if I'm going to have to do yours and mine, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. We're
Um,
here to close deals, right? We're
that's
not
right.
here to be right. We're here to close deals. And sometimes you
But
got to
I
do
have,
something to help them get it done.
yeah, I have found recently that the majority of the agents on the other side of the table are more seasoned agents,
Good.
which has been
Good.
delightful
Yeah.
because they know what they're doing. And I think that's because the market is normalizing. The NAR settlement, people don't know how to articulate their value. And I'm not going to say I haven't struggled with that either. I'm not here to say, oh, I've got it all down, because I do not. And I don't think if you're not learning, you got to be learning something every day to keep growing your business. But I think a lot of people are leaving the business, and it's probably a good thing. The people that are leaving probably should, because we do need to elevate our industry where we are seen as professionals, not just somebody that puts a sign in the yard and a listing in the MLS and doesn't do anything else.
Yeah.
We are helping sell people's largest asset. We have a fiduciary. The only people that have fiduciaries are us, lawyers, and wealth advisors. And people don't understand those things. And so they just hire the first person that mails them a postcard. Nothing wrong with mailing postcards. Nothing wrong with farming. You have to know your stuff, and you have to be able to articulate it.
Yeah. Or even if they had someone to go to, not, and again, we're not here to pick on other brokerages, but there are a lot of the flat fee brokerages came up and they might sell 10 or 12 a year, but there isn't any support.
Right.
So when they start running into earnest money contractual issues and things like that, they don't know how to respond or deal with it. And they don't have
Absolutely.
anyone to call and resolve. So I got to give it from my side. and tell them how
Right.
we have to do this in order to make this
Right.
work. And they don't have anyone to push back on me.
Hmm.
So we'll get it done my way.
Absolutely. Well, and I think discount brokers, flat fee brokers, I tell my clients all the time when they say, well, we're talking to this person, or will you reduce your fee? And not that I have never negotiated, because sometimes I do, not very often. But when I go into a listing appointment, I have a list of everything I'm going to do to get their home sold. And so when they ask me for a discount, I'll say, we can certainly discuss that. But if you want a discounted fee, you're going to get discounted services. So which of these things on my list do you want me to take off? And
Yeah.
then that, I always tell people when they're looking at discount agents, pay peanuts, get monkeys. That's just the bottom line.
I love it. I love it. Well, and COVID knocked out a bunch of people too. I think
Yes,
that's one positive, right? There's not very many positives from COVID, but we got down to the point where people, the ones that are left should be living on it and they need to work like
yes,
they are.
yes.
Man, awesome interview, Michelle. We'll do another one again. I think there's a lot of good value here, a lot of really good synergy that we have. How do we find you?
You can find me at 817-247-8573 because I do answer my phone. So you can always call me. I am with the One West group of Keller Williams. So you can find me at my email, mappling@kw.com. And you can find me at silvergateseniorrealty.com.
I love all that. I love the fact that you answer your phone. I do too. And we went through that during COVID too. Listing agents, none of them would answer their phones.
People would call me and I'd return their call. And the first thing the agent would say is, thanks so much for calling
Oh yeah.
me back. And I'm like, it's my job. It's
Yeah.
my
I mean,
job.
I list houses. I'm on the listing side. So I know how they feel. And I didn't do multiple offers. I did a lot of things to make it easier
Right.
for buyer agents. It's not that I didn't get multiple offers. I just don't want to quadruple everybody's stress and pain. And I'd be
Yes.
very honest with them. I'll tell them, hey, you're wasting your time and
Right.
just move on. This isn't the right home for you. And I'll tell people
Right.
that I don't just sit behind and hide behind everything, but I also negotiate most everything for my clients. I don't normally wait on them. I just do things.
Right.
I'm very, very
Right. Yeah,
fast.
I get it.
All right. Well, awesome, Michelle. Well, it was great. We'll do it again. We'll have a recording of this. We'll come to you and then you'll be able to share it with your clients. And there's some really good clips in here talking about your Silvergate program and some of the things that you do there. That's a really good audience that you can focus working with.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate the invitation. And it was great talking to you today.
All right. Thank you.